got me is I still think you're trying to find a use for the widget instead of coming up with a useful system and then determining if that widget is the best tool for it.
But the system is the widget.
Huh?
The system is the widget.
Yes, but the concept of the system should exist first.
The concept of a system...
So...
Yeah, sorry, I'm not quite following. So you're saying that the way people are thinking and the way I'm kind of following them is that they've designed this blockchain technology. Woo, excited! And they're now trying to shove it onto everything.
Yes, you're trying to say, how can I make a good game with blockchain? Or how can I make a good civic system with blockchain? And the real question is, how can I make a good civic system? And is blockchain the best way to handle community voting or these DOAs or any of that stuff? Because if you get it in your mind, I want a system that uses them, you may be...
But how do you assess is it the best if you don't try it?
Well, once you know what your application is going to be, then you can look at different ways of achieving it.
Sorry, application as in like an actual app or game on a phone, or application as in something that you're trying to do with it? How are you using application in that sentence?
So, long term it is the game or whatever feature. It doesn't have to be the full game, but if it's how you do your community voting or upkeep or whatever, that system, once you have that designed either literally operational or figuratively you've designed how you want it to work, you can look at different tools that provide that functionality and try and gauge which one would be best for your...
Yes and no. I don't 100% agree with that, because for certain things, yes, you can to some extent say, I want a system, like for example, if we're designing an economy, I want a system where everyone in the economy can vote equally, without frustration or, class interference, yada, yada, yada. You can say, I want a system where everything that government officials do is open and apparent and anyone can look into it. None of this, hidden bullshit. You can say, I want a system where, whatever, you can list off all the properties.
Yes.
But anything beyond that, like any system where you say, I want it to do specifically this thing so that it's more open. You can't do that, separate it from a potential tool that allows that.
Yes, but once you have in mind what you want it to do, then you go tool shopping to find the tool that best does that.
Yes, but the flip side is we've seen a lot of tools that get used for something like an economy. We've seen communism, democracies, dictatorships, autocrats. We've seen attempts at DOAs in a, crypto realm. We've seen guilds. We've seen community-driven Reddit. We've seen a lot of examples of organizations, whether on broad scale, small scale, and how different people can utilize those for different community-driven purposes. So we already have seen a lot of tools. So to say, okay, I know what I want my economy to do, and to whatever application, an economy in the real world, an economy in an MMORPG, you can say that, but just because the current tool being looked at and assessed is crypto doesn't mean that the others haven't been. So you're saying, you're implying that the only tool people, or me, is looking at right now is crypto, let's shove crypto on everything because it's the best, is what you're implying.
I'm not saying it's necessarily the best, but I'm saying at least I don't know. When I talk to you about it, I don't hear you talking about, other ways of tracking identities or saving information. And I get that and for a lot of people who tout crypto or tout the blockchain, I feel like they're doing it more as a buzzword. It's a cool thing, and they think they should have it versus we've analyzed what we want our system to do, and blockchain is the best way of achieving that.
And I do agree with that, but you can't, I think conflate is the word I want. You can't make those things one and the same. You can't say just because most people or a lot of people are doing it, that the approach of seeing a new technology and trying to see what holes that peg fits in is a bad approach.
No,
just
I'm not
because
saying people shouldn't take it off the table. I'm saying the way people talk about it, they bring it up like it's going to be a core function of a thing when they haven't done enough to know if it should be the core function.
Yes, well, that is an entirely separate problem from what I am speculating about when I go on my rabbit holes looking at, could you set up an economy? Could you set up a guild? Because at that point, I am trying to use it as a thought theory to understand how it might be applied, where it might be applied, the pros and cons of it. And yeah, I'm not really talking about other methods, but that's because I've already talked about other methods in my many, many other rabbit holes I have explored. I know how we store digital images. I know how we currently track financial data. I understand those technologies. I'm not trying to figure those technologies out. I already know their limitations, and I know what they can do. I see it every day. So the new tool I'm trying to bash about and figure out if it could do it better is crypto. And I think a lot of people are doing that same thing with crypto. They're like, I have a theory, a thing I want to do, a game I want to make, a community I want to build, and I've not been able to do it on anything else. I've tried building it in-game, and it doesn't work. Everyone always manages to run off with the loot. I've tried building it on Discord. Doesn't work. I don't have enough options. I've tried building it on a website. Pain in the butt. Too much effort, too much management. I don't understand all this website hoo-ha. So now they've got a new thing, and they're like, ooh, maybe this will work. What can I do with this? And maybe the answer at the end of all this chaos is, nope, that didn't work either, damn it. But I think that's what a lot of people are doing right now. And yes, on the outside, it does largely to some extent just look like everyone was like, oh my god, crypto will save the world and fix everything and all our problems are solved. But that's just because that's how people talk. Like, when people get excited about something, that's all they're excited about. And you don't necessarily see the years and years that they've tried something else. And again, this does not diminish the fact that I do absolutely believe that a large chunk of these are just pure and outright manipulative scams. Not denying that at all. It does not belittle that, does not undermine it. But the subset of them that are legit, that may still seem like they are just hyped up on, pipe dreams and adrenaline, it's probably because they've already tried doing whatever they wanted to do with other systems and were not happy with it. And that's why they've gravitated towards this. And some of those may still be in that process of figuring out if it's the right one. And they're just being dumb about it because, maybe they're jumping in too fast. They're jumping in unprepared. They're, trying to make it work without, as you said, fully understanding it. Maybe others are far enough along that they're like, yes, I think this will work, but now we gotta hammer out all the bugs and, do the hard work of making it work. And maybe there's others who have just kind of, they're in the process of, it's up and working, now we just need to let it play out. And so you have that whole gamut. But on the front of it, they all do just look like hyped up crypto junkies. Because that's their marketing. That's what gets people in, that's what allows them to test the system, and that is just how a lot of people think. So yeah, you've got a lot of scams that are taking advantage of it, and you've got a much smaller subset of people that, for whatever reason, are trying to utilize this new tool to do a thing that they want to do. We have no idea how many other options they've tried. We have no idea, where or what they've worked on before. And some companies are better, or some groups are better at giving you that information. Like, why would crypto be better versus X system or Y system? Why do you feel you need it? Some are better at explaining that than others. And some just don't understand it well enough themselves. But that's not inherently a negative. And I don't know, the way you talk about it often sounds like you think that is just a complete negative.
Because I hear a lot of people, when they talk about it, I'm not saying they can't say that they don't utilize it. It's not powered by, it's not the backbone of. They can say those things. I'm saying I want to hear, and I think somebody who has a genuine good faith product or system designed should be talking about what their thing aims to achieve that is so good, or what it does achieve that is so good, and then mentioning later or second that is powered or supported by blockchain. I hear a lot of people talking about it first, or almost making it sound like what the system does is of equal importance to the fact that it is backed by blockchain.
I see. So someone who, if they built, like, say, a game or something.
Yes.
And marketed it, talked about it like a normal game, and it just so happened to be that the assets and whatnot were NFTs.
I mean, you can't use NFTs like that, but yes.
You can. You can't use art NFTs like that. Let me put it that way. Because you can build a game in which the assets are tokenized in a blockchain the same way as
Possibly, although I don't think that's how the asset itself is actually referenced and stored if it's being generated.
No, it's just utilized as the same way we were talking about that it's a hyperlink.
Yeah, it calls.
Yeah, it's utilized to track who, like, legitimately owns a game asset based on, like, an ID identifier. Yeah.
Yes.
But you can technically, as well as they're able to do it with art NFTs, you can do the same thing with game assets. It's just, instead of being hosted on some random computer server somewhere, it's hosted in the game files.
Yeah.
So, but yes, you can kind of do the same thing. I kind of see what you're saying there.
And it's not like they have to hide it or anything. They can say, we've got a massive in-game community trading system with community-generated items or whatever, and we use NFT-generated tokens to track ownership and prevent item theft or something like that.
Yeah.
Or to identify when new items are generated and ensure they stay tracked with account.
Yeah.
But a lot of them often just launch it. It's like in tandem or whatever. It's like, we're creating this great new community system using blockchain, or we'll be, something else. I don't know. It tends to overshadow or equal shadow whatever the project is, and that always makes me nervous, because that, I don't know.
Yeah, I get that. I guess the only thing I'll add as kind of a devil's advocate to that is that if you are building something on a new system, it doesn't even have to be necessarily crypto, but anytime you build something that utilizes some new tool or technology, whenever you try and go about the marketing or the hype, even if you go about it the way you're saying, and you're like, oh, it's a great game, it does this and this and this and all these fun things, and the moment you say it uses blockchain to track transactions, that is the interesting thing to the journalists, to the news articles, to the gamers, because that's the thing they can write a story about. And so even if the developer themselves isn't hyping it that way, everything around it is going to still sound like that, because that's the new shiny thing that has everyone obsessed. And that's just kind of societal human mob mentality when it comes to anything new and shiny. So you will still get that, kind of no matter how you market it. If you are using a new technology that has reputations elsewhere in other facets, especially if you've got a reputation that it's, scam central, whether or not you're using it for that, it's still going to be talked about in that manner, with those contexts, with those asterisks tagged on. And some people might even see it the other way. The fact that you're not, forefront slamming them with it and being like, yep, we're on a blockchain. They're going to see that as sneaky. Oh, wow. I started playing this game, and I didn't even know I was buying an NFT. How dare they? And so...
Do you find it sneaky when you buy a new game and you assume it's using DirectX 12, but it's actually using DirectX 11 and they didn't tell you right away?
But here's the thing. Stuff like that...
If they're not being intrusive about it, you should probably never know unless you bother to look into it.
Exactly. But when you're dealing with something as hot topic as something like an NFT or blockchain, that's really hard to avoid. Mm-hmm. And so yes, you could build a game that utilizes it and never really explicitly tell anyone, and maybe they never know. But at the same time, if someone finds out, maybe they dig into the code and they're like, why the fuck is this referencing Bitcoin? Or, Bitcoin, not the currency. I guess Ethereum might be a better one. Why is this referencing the Ethereum blockchain? And they find out that it's, using the blockchain to track things. And maybe there's someone who doesn't agree with the use of blockchain. And now they are pissed. And they're assuming you've been lying to them. Even though you literally just didn't have any reason to say it. But I guess my point is, it doesn't matter which way you go, someone is upset.
Yes, I know. And I'm not saying that, yes, maybe news media does conflate it. But a lot of places themselves seem to be hyping it up.
Yeah, and I don't like those places, and I honestly don't.
I basically consider it something that should be in a little sticker thing that pops up in the corner, like your DirectX 11 or other stuff, or Unreal Engine or whatever.
Yeah, and I guess to that faucet, some of the reason that it has to be, at least specifically with crypto, I'll say, or specifically with blockchains being used like in games or things like that, we don't have enough centralized, I want to say networks, but I don't think that's the right word. We don't have enough centralized systems that can utilize that without someone needing to know how it works. Did that make any sense?
No.
So, back in the day, if you wanted to build a Flash game on an internet browser, for someone to play that, they had to know what an internet browser was, how to log into one or download one, and how to use a ULR to get to that Flash game and then play it. So, you inherently could not have them play that game without them understanding what the internet was, in some basic fashion. You couldn't be like, here, play my game. And they're like, okay, where's the execute file? And you're like, don't got one. You gotta go to an internet browser. And they're like, what? Why? It's just a game, isn't it? And it's like, yeah, but it's a game that uses this newfangled technology called the internet. And I get my historical context might not be totally in line. I'm going theoretical here. It's kind of the same thing, whereas now, you can launch a .html file and it opens the browser automatically because browsers are pre-installed on all the computers and things like that. we're not at a point with blockchains to that extent yet. They're not ubiquitous. That's the word I was looking for.
Yes, but if they're baked into your system, I guess if you're putting it on the user to have to manage all their blocks.
But that's kind of what I'm saying, is that there's not enough, like, there isn't a game engine out there that inherently has blockchain interfaces. At least not that I'm aware of. So there's no way to subtly integrate any of the major blockchains into a game without someone knowing how to go and, like, buy that currency or that token on an exchange somewhere. And that's just a limitation of the fact that we haven't built the integration systems for it.
I'm going to say this right now. I think in general, and maybe I'm wrong here, I actually think it's a bad idea that they have those games they're trying to design to use current publicly traded big blockchains.
I kind of agree with you there.
I think they should either be building their own or buying and running a smaller version of it directly inside either their servers or their games.
So again, I'll add my caveats to that. I agree, they shouldn't just be straight up using a cryptocurrency that is publicly traded. But the cryptocurrency is different than the blockchain.
I know, but I'm saying I don't think they should be, because that's how you start ballooning these blockchains too much.
Yes.
You should be using a smaller one specifically for your purposes.
But here's the thing. Those smaller blockchains are forks of the bigger blockchains. It's like building a whole new operating system when you build a blockchain versus building a fork off of it to make, your specific token or asset or I guess protocol is what they call them. So like Ethereum has hundreds of forks that all utilize the basis of Ethereum. But if they're done right, if they're forked correctly, they shouldn't necessarily directly tax the Ethereum system. That's why Polygon is able to work without gas fees. It doesn't directly utilize that system.
And I mean, that's kind of what I meant by buying a thing that then is baked in, is I assume...
But here's the thing. You still have to, currently at least, you still have to interact with those forks via whatever interface Ethereum has provided to work with its system. The same way if I wanted to go download a Windows file, I have to be on a Windows system. I have to have that operating system. I can't just be like, I want to build a whole new game. I don't want to use a Windows or a Mac operating system or a Linux. I'm going to build an entire operating system from scratch just so that I can run my game without them having to know what Windows or Mac is. Like, that's kind of the level these blockchains are on. And yes, at some point
So am I misunderstanding how blockchains work? They can't have the blockchain called through their program. You would have to, if you wanted to use one of these blockchain games, you would have to separately have your own Ethereum blockchain account, and you would do things on that, and they would somehow affect things in the game. They can't just have game assets called directly.
I don't honestly know.
If that's the actual case, then I think it's an even worse idea than I thought it was before.
Yeah, no, like I said, I don't like how a lot of the games are attempting to use it. So, like, for example, a lot of the games right now are like Axie Infinity, which is kind of the modern day Neopets. And, like, to buy your Axies, you have to go buy them off the blockchain. Like, you don't buy them in-game. They are bought like NFTs. And then you connect your wallet, and your wallet tells the game what Axies you own. And that's how a lot of those types of games work. Is you buy it on the blockchain, it's in your wallet, you show the game your wallet, basically, and it sees what assets you have. And I think some of that is the wallet artifact, now that I'm thinking about it. I don't know for sure, but because so far, as far as I can tell, all the blockchains track ownership via a wallet address. All of them, as far as I know. So, without making that wallet address, you can't do anything.
Yes, and I'm saying when you create a character in a game, part of what's generated with your character is a wallet ID.
Yes.
That is then tied to your character.
But wallets inherently work different than anything else most people have ever dealt with. They have a 12 passcode phrase that you have to remember or you will lose everything. Like, there are things about how the security works with a wallet ID that are not the norm that people expect. And so, like, okay, so if everything was routed through a game, say I was playing an MMORPG, and I created a character and that created me a wallet, the security on the blockchains, so even if, say, the login to my character, to my game account, was the login to my wallet, which is essentially what you're implying, or saying it would be, the security requirements on that would be that I have to be able to provide the same ID and security parameters that I do to log into my wallets online, which is those 12 passcode phrases, the approving contracts. So it pings you and it says, hey, someone's requesting a transaction, or hey, you're trying to send money, are you sure? So, like, they function much more like having to sign a credit card. And, like, without understanding that, I'm not sure how you build that into a game without people, A, realizing it's crypto-based, or B, without teaching them about crypto. And like I said, that's at the moment. I don't know if later on, as it becomes more ubiquitous, or as we develop other systems that kind of act as a more crowd-friendly GUI interface, if those will change. But at the moment, I cannot think of a way that you could build a game with a crypto backbone baked into it and not have people, like, immediately, right off the bat, be like, why is that requiring me to have 12 security codes that I have to write down, or else you're threatening to delete my entire account? Because that's kind of how most of them work, as far as I understand.
Well, I mean, they could design a wallet that is compatible with the game, that has different security requirements, or they could say, to make sure the game is secure, we have a higher security standard than what is expected.
But right now, that would be immediately suspicious as, well, it must be crypto.
I don't think if you're a person who doesn't understand crypto and would need to have crypto explained to them, you would not immediately see that and go, oh, this must be crypto.
Maybe not.
If I tried to log into a game and it says you need 12 passwords for some fucking reason, my first thought wouldn't be, oh, I got cryptos behind this. My first thought would probably be, what a gigantic pain in the ass. There better be a remember me button somewhere.
There isn't.
Yes. But that leads me back to my earlier thing, that maybe it's not the best tool for the job.
And that cycles me back to we're still optimizing it. And there's probably better systems to come that will change those security features. So, yeah, should we be building games with it now? Probably not. Should we still be trying to? Or